Hi everyone, today we're here with Christina from Sisko Chocolates and she's going to show us how to make sugar-free chocolate. I know it's something that most of you have been asking for, sugar-free sweets, and today we're going to learn how to do it. So Christina, thanks for meeting with us today.
Pleasure. Tell
us about where chocolate comes from.
Love to. So here we've got just a few samples of what a cocoa pod looks like. They're tropical fruits, so they're really bright and pinks and purples and reds and greens and oranges, and these are dried out versions. They're the actual size of the cocoa pods, and they grow along the equator 15 degrees above and below, which includes Australia, which is lovely. So
that's good news.
You can get some Australian grown chocolate these days. So those fruits are then harvested, split in half, and inside you've got like pulp around the seeds, or beans as we all call them.
Okay.
So they're fermented, dried, and then here's some dried cocoa beans.
Okay. Let's have a smell, see if I can smell this chocolate. Wow, it's like strong chocolate.
Yeah.
Without all the sugar and things added to it.
Yeah, so with that then they're basically broken up.
Okay.
And there's a fine layer of peel on them, and that's thrown away or used in the landscape industry and things like that. And then the nibs inside is what is used to make chocolate.
So that's chocolate nibs or cacao nibs that we've heard
and
of.
Here's some here which have been roasted. Today we're going to use a product that comes out of the cocoa nib, which is your cocoa powder and your cocoa butter. So in essence that's compressed and the fat's pulled out, and then the cocoa powder is pulverised to get cocoa powder. So,
okay, there you go. Yeah. So now we've learnt where chocolate comes from and how it's made. Let's head into the kitchen and make some. So what's the first step that we need to do?
So the first step is to melt down the cocoa butter. So microwave method, using a plastic bowl, not glass.
And why don't you use glass?
It retains too much heat, so you lose control.
Okay.
Whereas with the plastic, that gives you, won't overheat. So we've already started melting, and this is halfway melted. We could put it in for another 30 seconds to get it to 3/4, so I'll do that.
And what are we looking for when we're melting in the microwave? Do we want it to be completely melted, or do we still want there to be bits that are not melted?
Well, there's a couple of methods that you can use for tempering. Today I was going to show you the table method, because that gives you better results.
Well, we all want really good results of our chocolate at home, especially if we're making sugar-free chocolate. So we'll have a look at that step.
Yeah. So when you're microwaving, you only want to do it in 30-second intervals. You can't pop it in a microwave for 2 minutes and say, oh, it's melted. So 30-second intervals and stirring between each.
Okay. And what happens if we forget and we've just put it on auto and we've zapped it for maybe 45 seconds? Have we ruined our chocolate?
Depends what stage you're at. In the beginning you can get away with a minute.
Okay.
But then as you go, you might take it too far, you might heat it too much.
Okay.
You might burn it.
So what happens when chocolate is too warm? Does that mean then it won't go crispy? Is that what tempering means, when a chocolate has that crisp to it?
So tempering means that you melt your chocolate to 45 degrees and then you cool it down to about 27 and then raise it back up. So
why do you temper chocolate?
To get that crisp finish
that
you were talking about. If you heat this to 60 degrees, you basically burnt the butter.
Right.
So it's going to lose its quality.
Okay.
Yep. So
we've melted it for another 30 seconds or so.
Yep. And most of it's melted, but we still have some cocoa butter left. That's what we call seed.
Okay.
So seed is something that's already tempered, that you're putting into a melted product.
Yep.
And you're using that to cool it down.
Okay.
So if you just played around with this at the moment, let's have a look what it's at. You can use a digital thermometer. This one's a laser one. It just gives you the surface temperature.
And so if people don't have a thermometer at home, where can they go and buy one?
Your local cooking store, or I think Bunnings also has some digital cheap thermometers.
And we want it to be in what range in terms of the temperatures that it can pick up?
Chocolate's best at room temperature for storage. When we're working with it, you don't want to go over 45 degrees.
Okay, so the thermometer can actually be quite a low temperature range.
You can't really use a candy thermometer because they basically start from 90 and up and those.
Okay.
So at the moment we're at 35 degrees. The crystals melt out at 36 degrees.
Right.
So once it's over 36, those crystals are gone and you need to bring them back.
Okay.
And that's the trick to tempering.
Right.
Okay.
And possibly why every time I've made chocolate at home before, I haven't got it right because I've been using the wrong thermometer. I've been using a candy thermometer and I haven't been able to see the right temperature.
Temperature is very important. Very, very
now
important.
I know.
When you're starting out, you must have a thermometer when you're tempering.
Yeah.
The environment,
for all of us.
also the environment you're in. At the moment, it's about 20 in here, and that's comfortable for tempering chocolate. If it's a 30-degree heat day and you're trying to temper chocolate, you're going to have, more struggles.
So we'll give it another zap.
So I'm going to zap it all the way to 40, 45. All the crystals are out.
Okay.
And then we're going to add the cocoa powder and the stevia. And then we're
going to use stevia today because that's something that is allowed on a SIBO diet in small quantities. So when we're making a sugar-free chocolate, we can eat it, all of us SIBO sufferers, which is great.
So we want to get that to 40, 45. We're about 40 there. Nearly all the crystals are out.
Okay.
So when you're melting cocoa butter, you want all the particles to be a similar size.
Right.
And then you'll get a nice even melt. So
if people buy a block of raw cacao butter, which you can buy from organic stores and even some supermarkets, I've seen it, should they just cut it into pieces that are a similar size so that they can melt it down at the same temperature?
Yeah, definitely. And the thing with the raw cacao butter, I'm not sure if that's in a tempered stage or not. So this method that we're using will guarantee you to get tempered chocolate. So the table method's used if you're not sure if the cacao butter is tempered or not.
Okay.
Yeah. So
there we go, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing this chocolate come to form because it's smelling amazing.
So we've got our melted cocoa butter or cacao butter. What's the difference?
I don't know. I was hoping you might be able to tell me.
So usually cacao is the cacao bean, cacao nibs before they've been processed.
Okay.
So usually we do say cocoa butter.
Yep.
But because it's so confusing out there, it's cacao, cocoa, so either one works. I'm just sifting the cocoa powder through just to help alleviate any bumps.
Okay, so we've put the cocoa butter and cocoa powder together.
And now we're going to add the organic stevia.
Okay.
So to taste, and it'll take a little bit of experimenting as what you like.
And stevia is significantly sweeter than sugar, so it's not one for one. So to start with perhaps 1/4 of a teaspoon and then work up if you still feel that you need extra sweetness. So we've got a powder stevia here. Can we use liquid as well?
If there's any water content in the liquid, you cannot use it.
Right.
That will seize the cocoa butter.
Okay. So it's quite unlikely, unless it was, say, on an alcohol base, they could use a liquid stevia?
Yeah.
Okay. But if not, and the liquid stevia that I have at home is a water base, so we can't use that today, so we're happy with our trusty powdered version.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. So we're just going to mix that through.
Okay.
It's gorgeous how dark it is. I love it.
It smells amazing. Oh, I love chocolate. Especially now that I can eat it with this version. I'm really excited to see the finished product.
And so now we've got melted cocoa butter, cocoa powder and some stevia. It's out of temper. So now we want to bring it into temper.
And that means the sugar crystals have reformed? Or
well, it's not sugar crystals.
Oh, sorry, not sugar crystals.
No sugar allowed.
No sugar allowed, I know. What am I saying? I have sugar on the brain. I'm in a chocolate shop. It's all I can smell. So it's the cocoa crystals.
Yeah, so the crystals
Have I been listening?
It's really unusual as this like almost mysterious crystal in cocoa butter, and we need to bring it back. So we've melted it out, we've made it angry and unhappy, and now we need to say, okay, well, you know, we want you to come back, and we've got to massage it a little. And this is very important process of tempering. It needs to have movement. If you don't do this and you just cool it down, you won't get tempered chocolate.
Right.
So we're trying to
much more to chocolate than I knew.
We're trying to use some tools that you've got around the house. So you can use any type of cake spatulas or even just a regular one, because basically you're just creating movement. So however you can achieve that is fine.
And we've just used some, is it just normal baking paper that you're using?
That's baking paper, so it alleviates a lot of mess.
And the type of surface or the bench top that you use, does that have any impact on the tempering of the chocolate?
I think if you're working in a cool environment, you can do this on any bench top. Having a granite top or a, you know, it does help it cool quicker.
Yep.
So that's just an advantage, but it can be done on any bench top.
Okay.
I'd say metal maybe retains the heat from the 40 degree that you've poured on it, so you could move it around a little bit on your sheet. So the aim of moving it and cooling it down is to get this toothpaste consistency, and everyone knows what toothpaste is like, and I think we've achieved that there, so it's pasty.
Okay, so now we've tempered the chocolate and it's got quite firm.
It's got quite firm. This is a good lesson for you all. So at this stage we've pretty much got tempered chocolate.
Yep.
But you can't really use it like this.
Yep.
So what we need to do is scrape it off.
Okay.
Get some, and the good thing about using that silicone baking paper is just scrapes off nice and easy, and you don't have to clean any benches afterwards. And we're going to pop that back in the bowl.
Okay.
So pop it in there. It's looking very messy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what you do now is that's cooled down.
Yep.
And we need to get it to around 28 degrees.
Okay.
And so you can either pop it in the microwave, just maybe 5 seconds, or what we do in the chocolate world is we use a heat gun.
Guns come out.
And we just gently heat it, because this way we can see what's happening.
Right, okay.
But obviously you can use the microwave, just really short intervals.
So that's starting to melt quite quickly actually in the bowl. It's going from quite firm chocolate to semi-liquid. I might just tip the bowl up so that people can see how that's gone quite liquidy now.
Yep. So I don't want to over melt that, because why?
Yep.
The crystals, if you go over 36, you have to start again.
Okay.
So you want to keep that nice and you know, not below 30.
And so if someone does accidentally take that too high in temperature, is that it? Have they lost that batch of chocolate?
No, you then take it as high as 40 and start again.
And start again, right.
So do the table method again.
Okay.
And then pour it back in. Yeah.
Re-warm it slightly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all about temperature. Tempering is all about temperature. So I've melted it slightly and now it's lumpy. So I know that I can put a little more heat onto that because I want those lumps to melt out. You can use your thermometer. It's at 28.9. So I know I've got, you know, a couple of degrees to play with.
Yeah, sure.
Well, really, you can take it to about 34 and be fine.
Okay.
You just don't want to go over 36.
Okay.
But to be cautious, it's better to play with lower temperatures to avoid having to do it again.
Yeah. It's looking good.
So once you've gone through all that process, what a lot of people will do is just pour it into their moulds and hope for the best.
That's been me many occasions without all of the other steps beforehand.
So what you want to do is grab a piece of plastic or even a spoon and just dip a corner in. And then just wait a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And if that sets, then you know everything's happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone at home could use a teaspoon or a soup spoon, dip it in, put it to one side and see if that's set.
So I'm going to keep stirring this because obviously tempered chocolate likes movement, but also I'm trying to melt out all those little lumps.
Can people use a whisk to stir their chocolate, or is it better to have a spatula?
I think spatula is better because you're just adding air and there's no need for it really.
Right, okay.
So I just checked the temperature. I was at 29.8. So I really want those lumps out so I've got nice smooth chocolate.
Yep.
And if you have a look at that little test there, we've got a nice sheen that's setting.
Yep.
So that's definitely tempered.
I'll show everybody at home.
So you could have tempered chocolate but have lumps in it. So just that little extra care, the lumps are gone, and you got your optimal.
Yep.
So now you get to make your chocolates.
The great thing here is that we can leave it plain as just chocolate, or we can add some ingredients that are allowed on a SIBO diet. So some things that we've got today are cacao nibs, we've got some toasted coconut and a variety of nuts. Now if you're not sure about nuts and whether they affect your gut or not, leave them out. But if you know there are nuts that you can eat without any problems, by all means use them. And I'm guessing we could use raw nuts or we could toast them, and that would give quite different flavours for both options.
Yeah, definitely. And there's, I mean, that's just a small selection, but I'm sure there's a lot more you could use. And
yeah. All right, so talk us through what we do now. We've got our chocolate ready to go.
I've got a piping bag, but at home you can just use a Ziploc bag.
Okay.
And then just cut the corner off of that.
Yep.
That's
so something like a sandwich bag, where you put your school kids' sandwiches in. Yep.
That's a really good way to do it, rather than spooning in, because that gets messy. So you're just going to pour in your chocolate mixture. It is chocolate, there's cocoa butter in it, and cocoa powder, just a different form. I like to twist the top so you don't get anything flowing off the edge. And then we're just going to pipe in to ice tray molds. So anything that's smooth on the inside, plastic or silicone will work.
Plastic or silicone, right. And everybody should have an ice cube tray or two in their freezers. So do we need these trays to be room temperature, or if someone's just pulled it out of the freezer and emptied out their ice cubes, do they need to bring that down to kind of room temperature?
Definitely room temperature.
Okay. So then we've got little squares of chocolate, which look amazing. I can't wait to dive in and start tasting these.
And you don't have to have a mould. If you don't have a mould, you can just create your own shards or...
Wonderful. So you could do things like chocolate bark, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what you need to remember, you need to put your toppings on there before it sets.
Okay.
So
I don't have gloves on, so I'm not going to do it. But
you can do it. These are for you.
Oh, they're for me. It's awesome. I can touch them. And I love coconut, so I'm definitely going to do a few with some coconut. I used to love coconut rough, so this is a safe version of coconut rough for me. And then
we prepared some earlier.
Yeah. So
once you've put on your toppings, what you do is you pop it in the fridge. 5 minutes, 10 minutes should be plenty. You don't want to leave it in there longer because then you'll get condensation. So a lot of people will put it in, leave it in there for half an hour, and then you've got that sticky condensation happening.
Right.
So,
okay. I'm learning all the things that I've done wrong when I've tried to make chocolate in the past. So we've got a tray. Shall I tip them out?
Yeah, you can tip them out.
Oops. Okay. So we've got some set chocolate that we prepared earlier. I hope you enjoyed this cooking video so that you at home suffering SIBO can actually have something sweet. Thanks, Christina from Sisko Chocolate. It's been wonderful learning how to make chocolate with you today, and bottoms up.